Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to all of you of the wool industry. Let me quickly introduce Sud Wolle. We are a worsted spinner, a worsted wool spinner in particular. We produce especially for the apparel market of men's and ladies' wear, as well as for knitted products, just the yarn. The next stage in the industry are those who weave products or knit products. These are our customers. Thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to speak to members of the New South Wales Farmers Association and others. For Sud Wolle, it is a valuable opportunity to improve communication within the supply chain, so we can relate better to your ability to supply product, and we can explain the priorities placed on us by our customers. As a worsted wool spinner, we are not involved in the initial processing of your greasy wool. We are at the next stage, where your wool is spun into yarns required by these customers. All businesses in a production or supply chain are today more closely linked than ever. To ensure that retail goods containing wool are to be fully competitive, our product must be right on target. We depend on a good job from our suppliers, as our customers depend on our deliveries to meet market needs. Sud Wolle spins in the vicinity of 180,000 bales of merino wool per year to supply an increasingly diverse range of markets. Although initially established in Germany, the company also operates in Poland and quite extensively in China these days. In response to the contraction of traditional larger volume markets, the initial concept of spinning large batches for a type program available on call had to be adjusted. We are now active in various market segments, including custom-made yarn programs and wool-rich blends. Firstly, we had to focus on certified production under international standards and environmental conditions. Secondly, we have to respond now to changed needs for raw material, which is in compliance with today's world consumer and market requests. Such includes issues of ethical husbandry, that means demand for non-used wool and organic production. On the other side, we learn about inevitable and increasing burdens related to carbon footprint, charges levied in future on industries and products with high energy requirements or those disposing chemical residues in the waste system. Some people call the more stringent standards bad news, but this also offers a lot of new opportunities for the industry. The good side definitely is that wool remains such a unique and versatile natural fiber. Wool is sustainable, renewable, and leaves a much smaller carbon footprint than many other textile fibers. Markets need a proof that all characteristics are up to expectation. Scientists have done a remarkable job in developing tests that measure almost everything from micron fineness to chemical residues. In our increasingly specialized marketplace, these are extremely helpful in ensuring that ingredients are compatible with the targeted end use. They are also helpful detecting contaminants or any characteristics that are not compatible with the targeted end use. As growers, you will be as aware as any of us that what goes into a top is there for good. As a processor at the next stage, it has been traditional for us to either accept or reject tops offered to us by the top maker. Only very little consultation with them about ingredient, composition and other aspects of the processing that produces these tops took place. From my present position as a spinner and from my previous position in the top making industry, I can now see how the absence of more effective communication and consultation has handicapped our collective operations. In addition to this, the industry has neglected what scientists have been telling us for many years about the high degree of internal uniformity within merino wool clips in particular. For over a decade, we have been working in collaboration with direct marketers and top makers to capitalize on this internally uniformity. We are convinced that the results of processing bulk prepared components of comparable wool clips generally delivers a more uniform product than from processing blends made up from many different clips. As much as this may provide advantages to us, I understand that it paves the way for sometimes significant economies of scale to be achieved from the time of shearing to the point where greasy wool enters the scour. Of the greatest advantage to growers and us as processors is the potential to supply fully tested farm lots of wool at a reasonable average cost per bale. In the light of increasingly stringent requirements from the regulators and the specialized market segments that we have to service, I believe that the development of these measurements and making their use affordable at grassroots level is of significant importance. Although developing this overall picture has relied heavily on collaboration between direct marketers, top makers, and ourselves, could I please emphasize the importance of the principles that are involved. Our overall competitiveness in the retail markets is dependent on delivering product with characteristics that are consistent with consumer requirements. Therefore, these principles need to be applied. The range of product characteristics has become increasingly diverse. In addition to this, we are receiving an increasing number of requests for the certification of these characteristics and that the supply chains be fully documented. Meeting these diverse requirements requires extensive testing, and again, the need can be met through fewer and larger batches with similar product properties. The authentication of supply may include confirmation of where the wool was grown or demands as to any risk of dark fiber content. These days, there's more than just the auction system. As a grower or grower group, you need to select a system which will promote the attributes of your wool in the best possible way under economic conditions. Returns need to be optimized for wool in order to stay competitive with alternative agribusinesses you could choose for your land. One example of this is the company Numerino, which act as a facilitator and pass on industry requests to their pool of clients, providing the requested product and volume. A too big task for a company like us. Moreover, the points of information are reduced, permitting a higher quality and frequency of information exchange. Once a system has proven its advantages, it can be expected to be used for the longer term and further developed. We know that some of our suppliers do welcome this alternative model as it removes part of their usual quality and sourcing risks. For us, the probability of a top rejection should be reduced as well. This demonstrates how the collaboration of each expert in the supply chain contributes to the best interest of promoting wool and textile products. Let me conclude. Our wool business has become very competitive today. Changes are required, even though they may be tough and sometimes demand some courage. However, it must not be forgotten that Australian wool is in competition with wool produced in other parts of the world and therefore has to define its difference where possible. The fundamentals are good and sound, providing an excellent basis for the new challenges created by the consumer markets for us. Thank you very much for your attention.
In your presentation, you talked about the way that wool tops made from bulking together larger lines from compatible tend to be more uniform than tops being made from blending smaller lines from many different clips. In Australia, there are some producers and others who would argue that's all well and good for ordinary wool, but it wouldn't suit our finer wools. How would you respond to that?
Well, finer wools are considered up to almost 24 microns these days, with the bulk being in the category, in our case, for our production, from 16 to about 21 micron. And here you have the highest value of products produced. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense to address this issue and to improve where possible to deliver a better product, because it directly transfers into the product and, of course, makes wool more price competitive.
If Sud Wolle has recognised and developed a means of building combining lots that deliver a superior product to spinners, wouldn't it be better for your company to keep that a secret from your competitors?
In principle, yes, but on the other side, this is an industry issue, and of course, even though it's advantages for us, it's also advantages for others. We agree. We don't have an interest to keep it as a secret. We want that wool is promoted. We want that wool is demanded further downstream. And once we feel there is something we need to address to the public, we have no reason to hold it back. And not everyone is interested to buy it. There's different beliefs, and for us it may be suitable. For others, it's probably not so suitable.
If wool tops made from combining larger lots from within individual clips are more uniform than tops made from mixing smaller lots from many clips, why haven't other spinners woken up to this before now?
Well, it depends always how you buy your product. And with our large spinning programs of the past, the effect has been transferred more direct to our results than to other spinners who have had smaller order sizes, smaller batches. Therefore, they probably have not been able to notice as much as we have. However, saying this, a lot of the Italian spinners, as you know, in the very fine merino category, operating in this very fine, high quality end, they are very much after buying wools from particular properties year after year. And this also shows, even though it's smaller volumes, that there is obviously an effect of what you get out of certain products directly related to the final product.
You mentioned environmental considerations like unused wool and organics. Could we explore that a little bit further? How would you see those considerations playing out as one representative company?
There's a change in the consumer markets and in the world in general. We believe it's coming especially from the US right now. However, also in Europe you have big movements about ethical treatment of animals. It started years ago with the eggs. Pigs have been in the media many times, and you find other examples as well. We don't want to eat an egg in the morning from a tortured chicken. And this is sort of similar what goes on now with sheep and wool, unfortunately. We need a positive image of this beautiful fiber, and this needs to be addressed. And it is a concern that it hasn't been addressed for so long. Now we need to do something about it. We even feel that it's only the starting point, and other issues will be addressed as well in the wool industry, like tail docking and others, just to name one example. We fear that this could develop even to an ecological tsunami later on, even though right now the requests for organic wools are rather niche markets, predominantly in next to skin wear or in the knitting field. However, with some of the media coverage which has started in the northern hemisphere, you can expect that this will become broader and broader over years.
How important are those niche markets that you just mentioned in terms of the future?
Niche markets very often seem to be the leader in an industry. They make people aware of a certain product, of a product category, and therefore it is important that this issue is addressed. And there's, as I said, a positive image related to this, because they are usually the premium priced categories and they drag all the bulk volume behind. And therefore we must not ignore that.
If mulesing wasn't phased out by the deadline that Australian producers have committed to in 2010, what would you expect ramifications to be within the market, yours and Australian producers?
Well, it is a concern if these deadlines cannot be met, because the organizations who have targeted this problem will not give up. For them, it's just a feast to elaborate on that and to make themselves known more to the public. Moreover, of course, as I mentioned before, Australian wool is in competition to wool from other countries. And these countries have a keen interest, of course, to step up and to become a major supplier to some of these companies asking for non-mulch rules already. Once products are in a program, they usually run for a longer period, and people will then ask the question, why shall we move back, because it worked so well? So it could possibly affect the Australian market, not in all categories, but certainly in some categories for a longer period and be disadvantageous. And again, I think Australian growers tend to agree that musing is not a nice procedure, and therefore many growers, I understand, also don't like to do it. I don't see an issue why it shouldn't be phased out by then.